The world holds its breath tonight. In newsrooms across the globe, journalists and analysts scramble to keep up with a rapidly evolving crisis, their eyes glued to flickering monitors and urgent updates. The sense of unease is palpable, as if the entire planet is waiting for the next shoe to drop. It's February 9th, 2026. Tensions in the Middle East have reached a boiling point, with cities from Baghdad to Jerusalem bracing for what could be a historic turning point. The streets are lined with military vehicles, and the air is thick with anxiety as soldiers patrol under the fading light, their faces set with grim determination. News headlines flash across every screen. President Trump has issued a stark ultimatum to Iran. Last chance for peace. The world is riveted, watching as the fate of millions hangs in the balance. The message is clear, and the stakes could not be higher. In the Persian Gulf, a formidable display of American naval power unfolds. Warships, led by the USS Abraham Lincoln, cut through the dark waters, their decks bristling with advanced weaponry. The presence of these vessels is a calculated show of force, a warning that the United States is prepared to act if provoked. On the flight decks, F-35C fighter jets stand ready, their engines humming with anticipation. Pilots, suited up and focused, prepare for missions that could change the course of history. This is no routine patrol. Every movement is a high-stakes gamble, a signal to both allies and adversaries that the situation is deadly serious. President Trump's ultimatum reverberates through the halls of power. His words are uncompromising, leaving little room for misinterpretation. The world wonders, will this bold move force Iran to the negotiating table, or will it ignite a conflict with devastating consequences? In Tehran, the response is swift and defiant. Iranian leaders gather in emergency meetings, their faces steely with resolve. At press conferences, officials declare that Iran will not bow to threats or negotiate under duress, insisting that their sovereignty is non-negotiable. Iran's military puts on a show of strength, parading missile launchers and advanced weaponry through the streets. The message is unmistakable. Any attack will be met with a crushing response. The world watches as both sides dig in, unwilling to show weakness. The world is caught in a terrifying standoff. On one side, American and allied forces mobilize. On the other, Iran rallies its own military might. Diplomats from around the globe rush to broker peace, but neither side appears willing to back down. The tension in international meeting rooms is almost unbearable, as the threat of war overshadows every conversation. From Tel Aviv to Riyadh, from Dubai to Cairo, ordinary people gather in cafes and public squares, their eyes fixed on television screens. Conversations are hushed, and every breaking news alert sends a ripple of fear through the crowd. Parents hold their children a little closer, wondering if tonight will be the night everything changes. For years, the specter of a US-Iran conflict has loomed over the region. Decades of mistrust, proxy wars, and failed negotiations have brought us to this moment. Each escalation, each diplomatic breakdown, has been another step toward the brink. Now the threat feels more imminent than ever before. Across the Middle East, cities are on edge. Police and military units are on high alert, and protests erupt in the streets as citizens demand answers and accountability. The region is a tinderbox, and it seems the spark has already been struck. The fear of chaos and violence hangs heavy in the air. Behind closed doors, military commanders on both sides huddle over maps, plotting strategies, and preparing for every possible scenario. The pieces are in place for a conflict that could have unimaginable, global consequences, not just for the Middle East, but for the entire world. The clock is ticking. In the darkness, convoys of military vehicles move into position, their headlights cutting through the night. The question is no longer if war will happen, but when. The sense of inevitability is chilling, as if the world is hurtling toward a point of no return. In capitals around the world, leaders and citizens alike watch the unfolding crisis, with a mix of fear and helplessness. The world is paralyzed by the looming threat, knowing that the decisions made in the next few hours could alter the course of history. Tonight, the Middle East stands on the brink, and the world can only watch and wait. Behind the threats lies Trump's vision for a new Middle East. He imagines a region transformed from conflict to commerce, mirroring East Asia's dynamism. The goal: replace war with business, trade, and shared prosperity. No more nation-building or exporting democracy. America acts as facilitator, not architect. The idea when countries trade, they're less likely to fight. Economic growth becomes the bulwark against extremism, but deep-seated conflicts remain. Israel-Palestine, Syria, regional rivalries. The administration bets that relentless focus on shared economic goals can pave the way forward. Under President Trump, American foreign policy underwent a dramatic transformation. Instead of championing democracy and human rights as guiding principles, Trump's administration prioritized making deals, often with leaders who shared little in common with American values. This approach marked a radical shift, where transactional agreements and pragmatic partnerships took center stage, fundamentally altering the way the U.S. engaged with the world. Traditional soft power, like promoting democracy, supporting civil society, or encouraging reforms, was pushed aside. In its place, the U.S. focused on direct, state-to-state relationships, emphasizing mutual interests over shared ideals. Diplomacy became less about building consensus and more about negotiating terms that benefited American interests in the short term. Economic sanctions, lucrative trade deals, and security guarantees became the primary tools of influence. The administration used these levers to reward allies and pressure adversaries, believing that economic strength and strategic leverage would yield better results than moral persuasion. When military force was considered, it was used sparingly and with precision, favoring targeted strikes and limited operations over prolonged wars. The goal was to avoid costly entanglements, using force only as a last resort and always with a clear, defined objective. The U.S. positioned itself as a coordinator, bringing together regional partners to counter common threats like Iran and extremist groups. By building coalitions, the administration aimed to share the burden of security and amplify its influence without overcommitting American resources. Critics, however, saw this approach as cynical and short-sighted. They argued that abandoning America's traditional commitment to democracy and human rights undermined its credibility and moral authority. Trading long-term influence for immediate, tangible gains. Supporters countered that after years of costly interventions and failed nation-building, a pragmatic, interest-driven strategy was not only justified, but necessary. They believed this reset would restore American strength and respect on the world stage. For the Trump administration, forging practical alliances and focusing on achievable goals was the path to lasting stability. They saw these partnerships as the foundation for a new era of American leadership, one defined by results, not rhetoric. Ultimately, the administration's foreign policy was clear: prioritize shared security and economic interests above all else, even if it meant setting aside the ideals that once defined America's role in the world. At the heart of Trump's strategy is expanding the Abraham Accords. Arab nations normalize ties with Israel, forming a coalition against common threats. These alliances counter Iran and unlock economic opportunities: tech, tourism, finance. The U.S. acts as broker, offering security and economic incentives. Each new member adds stability, isolating extremists. The accords are the cornerstone of Trump's vision, a new era of cooperation. For the administration, this is proof that prioritizing deals works. Containing Iran is the unyielding pillar of U.S. policy: maximum pressure, crippling sanctions, and targeted military strikes. The goal: starve Iran's regime of resources for its military and proxies. Iran responds by accelerating its nuclear program and arming allies. The cycle of escalation grows more dangerous, with no clear off-ramp. Some say the aim is negotiation, others suspect regime change. The U.S. and Iran are locked in a perilous standoff. The U.S. amasses a formidable naval force in the Middle East. The USS Abraham Lincoln and its armada signal a clear threat. Trump's social media warnings: locked and loaded, make a deal. Iran responds with defiance, vowing to defend its sovereignty. The region is on a knife's edge. Any miscalculation could ignite war. Shipping lanes are tense. Analysts game out scenarios. Will it be surgical strikes or a wider conflict? The world watches this dangerous chess match, hoping for restraint. The stakes have never been higher. The U.S.-Iran standoff raises fears of a catastrophic regional war. Critics warn that U.S. support for Israeli strikes could drag America into direct conflict. Inside Iran, protests grow. Trump voices support, hinting at intervention. The crisis blurs lines between external pressure and internal unrest. Trump's pattern of escalation and hesitation leaves allies and adversaries guessing. A wider war would devastate the region, disrupt oil, and trigger a refugee crisis. The threat is no longer distant, it's a clear and present danger. The world braces for what comes next. Trump's Middle East policy is under scrutiny for inconsistency. He campaigned as an anti-war president, yet authorizes military buildups and Israeli strikes. Critics say he's swayed by hawkish advisors, lacking a coherent strategy. Allies and adversaries see a leader torn between dealmaker and warrior. This internal conflict fuels doubt about his ability to deliver peace. The fear in crisis, Trump's desire to appear strong could override his instincts. America risks being pulled into the very war he promised to avoid. The Middle East stands at a crossroads, facing a stark choice between a future shaped by peace and prosperity, or one overshadowed by catastrophic war and destruction. This region, long marked by both vibrant culture and devastating conflict, now finds itself at a pivotal moment in history. Under President Trump's administration, a bold vision emerged, one that sought to transform the region through economic partnership and unprecedented regional cooperation. The Abraham Accords, a landmark agreement, symbolized this new approach, bringing together nations that had once been adversaries. The hope was to foster stability, encourage investment, and open doors for a new era of collaboration, where business and innovation could flourish across borders. Yet, alongside these diplomatic breakthroughs, the strategy of maximum pressure on Iran, through sanctions, military posturing, and open threats, has pushed the region dangerously close to the edge. The presence of military convoys, fighter jets, and tense standoffs at borders serve as constant reminders of how fragile peace truly is. The administration walks a tightrope, balancing diplomacy with deterrence. It's a high-stakes gamble, pursuing peace through strength but always aware that a single miscalculation could ignite widespread conflict. This volatile mix of groundbreaking deals and looming threats has created an atmosphere of deep unpredictability. Every handshake is shadowed by the possibility of escalation, and every negotiation is underscored by the readiness for war. Around the world, people watch with bated breath. Newsrooms buzz with updates, and anxious crowds gather in public squares, glued to screens as headlines shift by the hour. Is this the dawn of a new era, or the prelude to disaster? In the Middle East itself, ordinary people live with uncertainty. Families worry for their future, soldiers stand guard through sleepless nights, and cities hold their breath in uneasy silence, waiting for the next move. The coming days are critical. Decisions made now will determine whether the Middle East descends into chaos and war, or whether it seizes the chance for lasting peace and a brighter tomorrow. The world waits, and the fate of millions hangs in the balance.